Hello everyone, I hope you're well. You're watching What Helen Reads and I'm Helen, and today I've got my October reading wrap up for you. Right, so without further ado, let's get straight into the stats. So in the month of October, I managed to read 18 books in total, which was a grand total of 5,906 pages, which came out to about 190 pages per day. So that was actually pretty good going. I normally read sort of 150, 160 pages a day, so definitely my reading page count was up. And while I had a busy month personally, I also had a lot of time to focus on reading and also took part in the Monster Mash readathon, which was right at the start of the month. I already did a roundup for those books, so I will mention them here, but I won't go into those in detail. So if you want to know my thoughts on the books I read for that readathon, then you can read my kind of roundup that I posted earlier in the month of October for that. So in terms of how I read the 18 books, I had 2 ARCs, 1 audiobook, 2 ebooks, 12 Kindle Unlimited books, and one that I'm kind of it was sort of a pre-ARC. It wasn't quite a beta read, it wasn't an ARC read either, it was kind of a pre-ARC version of the book, and I'll explain more when I get to that one. Then in terms of the star ratings, I rated 1 book 2 stars, 3 books 3 stars, had 11 4-star reads and 3 5-star reads, so very good star ratings there. And even the 2-star rating, it sounds quite low, but it actually isn't. And on Goodreads, I actually rated it much higher than that, but I'll explain myself when I get there as well. And then in terms of the genres that I read this month, I read 1 BDSM romance, 1 dark romance, 3 paranormal, 6 mafia romance, 5 monster romances, and 2 sports romances. So slightly fewer mafia romances than I would normally read, but that's because it was the Monster Mash readathon, like I've said, and so quite a few more of the books that I read were sort of monster paranormal related as a result of the fact that we're celebrating spooky season right now. So the first book I read or finished in the month of October was this one, which was Fall Into You by JT Geissinger, and it was also one of my 5-star reads for the month. It's book 2 in the Morally Grey series, and it's a bit of a spin-off in a way to the Queens and Monsters. It's sort of set in the same universe, but it isn't a mafia romance directly, but it is, I would classify as kind of like dark, on the lighter side of dark, kind of contemporary, set definitely a billionaire sort of romance, and this one was sort of set in the office, so we could loosely say it's sort of an office romance as well. Now in this one we're following Cole and Shay, and Cole is the brother from the hero from book 1, and they are a billionaire sort of family. They own a massive media organisation, control quite a lot of the media globally, and Cole in this one is the CFO of the company, so he is extremely rich. Now this is a very private family. They don't really let in people into their family, and they don't really share their private lives out there in the public domain, so they keep their cards very close to their chest. But we get the sense that Cole is not everything he seems. He is the CFO of this company, obviously, but there is also some dark dealings going on, and he very much is what I would classify as really a bit of a tortured hero. He's got a dark backstory. He's capable of some very dark things, and he has been doing some vigilante work, shall we say, outside of normal working hours, and as a result he has struggled to kind of like maintain any kind of romantic relationships until he meets Shay. And he meets Shay basically out one night. She's out with some friends. Their eyes meet across the bar. Her friends convince her to go over and talk to him. They have some great banter between them, very typical of JT Geisinger's banter between, you know, the hero and the heroine in her stories, and this heroine is no different. She gives as good as she gets. She's very, very attracted to Cole. He's attracted to her, and they end up having a one-night stand. But he very much says they can't be together. It can only be for one night. He's not good. He's not a good person, not good for her, and she would be very much in danger if they pursued this relationship. So this all happens after, you know, one night, but then separately to this, Shay is looking for a new job. She happens to get offered a position at Cole's company, in fact as his personal assistant. She doesn't know it's him. She takes a job, and when she turns up and realizes it's him, he starts to question whether their chance encounter in the pub the night before was indeed a chance encounter, and is a little bit suspicious of her. He's also got a really bad reputation in the office. He's gone through quite a lot of personal assistants. He's not a very nice person. Well, not that he's not a nice person, but he's very demanding and expects perfection. So she's very much been warned that he's going to be difficult to deal with. And she's very much prepared for this because the package they've offered her is very good indeed. And so she takes a job, and when they realise it's, you know, they see each other in the office and they realise they're together, he's not too happy. He basically says they have to stay apart, but of course they're not going to be able to stay apart, and ultimately they will carry on with their relationship. Like I say, I really like this one. I just love a J.T. Geissinger book. I'm always smiling throughout. Was it perfect? No, there was bits in this plot that I didn't 100% agree with. Interesting things that happened, interesting things that we found out about Cole and kind of the backstory and what's kind of going on. But did I absolutely enjoy it? Yes, I did. I was smiling throughout, like I said. Really enjoyed this couple, and can't fault J.T. Geissinger's writing at all. So had to give this one a 5-star. So the next one I read was Getting It On With Gargoyles by Hazel Mack, and this one is a kind of paranormal fantasy sort of romance. It's set in a small town, and it's book 1 in the Haven Ever After series. And I read this as part of the Monster Mash readathon at the start of the month. And in this one we're following Thea and Shepherd. Now Thea is basically one of triplets, and her sisters and her discover a magical map in an antique shop. They find this little village on the map, and they decide they're going to go and explore. Of course they can't find their way in because it's magical, it's protected by wards. But when they pull up at the gas station asking for directions, that's when Thea meets Shepherd, who happens to be a gargoyle. He recognises her straight away that she's his mate, and of course he gives her directions to this magical town. And so that they go there, and when they go there they discover obviously it is a fantastical town full of paranormal creatures, from pixies and vampires and gargoyles, trolls, and it's a sweet small town romance, like I say, with paranormal elements, and I really enjoyed this one. We'll definitely be going on to read the other books in the series. If you want to know more detailed thoughts on this book, then like I say, I read this as part of the Monster Mash readathon, so you can go back and watch my video on that if you want to hear more detailed thoughts of this particular book. Moving straight on then to a monster romance, I read Viper by Naomi Lucas. Again, I read this one as part of the Monster Mash readathon at the start of the month to check off my Snake Square, and this one is book 1 in the Naga Brides series. It's very much a sci-fi monster romance. The heroes are Nagas, so basically snake human hybrids, and the females are human. And in this one we're following Vrushka and Gemma. I rated this one 4-star, really enjoyed it, and have read and went on to read more books in the series, which I'll talk about in more detail. Essentially what's happening with this world is that Earth, we're sort of thousands of years in the future. Humans have had to abandon Earth because of a war with another alien species, and Earth has kind of pretty much been devastated, and they had to kind of flee, and they've been living in the stars, and 1,500 years has passed, and they are now in a war with another alien species, and they kind of need to go back to Earth to recover some technology that was kind of left behind. Earth is sort of a little bit more habitable now. It's safe for them to actually land and explore, and so they've sent a team of humans back to try and find this technology that they're looking for basically on Earth. Of course, when they get back, Earth isn't as they left it. Things are very different, and now there are these Naga men who kind of like are the inhabitants of this planet, and they also know where this technology is, and they're kind of guarding it. So at the start of this book, the Nagas are desperately in need of some females so that they can have mates and reproduce, because all of their female snakes have disappeared. And so they kind of do a trade with the male humans to say, we'll give you some of the technology if you give us your women, and that's kind of the bargain that happens. So like I say, this first story is between Vrushka and Gemma. If you want to know my full thoughts on that book, like I say, read the go back and watch the Monster Mash readathon roundup that I did. But like I say, I really enjoyed it and went on to read more books in the series. Then the next one I finished was God of Malice by Rina Kent, and this was a reread for me, but I was listening to this one at this time on audiobook, and it's book 1 in the Legacy of the Gods series, and in this one we're following Killian and Glyndon. And this one was narrated by Sebastian York and Josie Minor. Like I say, this was a reread for me. It was a reread at the start of the year, and it was a book that I did put in one of my kind of quarterly roundups as kind of like one of the standouts from, I think it was Q1 when I read it. But I did only rate it 4 stars, and I kind of stuck to that after I read the audiobook for the second time. This is very much a dark romance, sort of new adult, links to mafia, so not strictly a mafia romance. So the characters in this one are the children of previous Rina Kent's characters. So it's kind of a, you know, sort of a legacy, next generation sort of book. So it's they've got links to the mafia, but these kids are not yet in the mafia. They're in fact at a college on Brighton Island in the UK, and they go to rival colleges, so you kind of get the the kids from the US and the kids from the UK, and they kind of like mix together in these in this on Brighton Island, basically at these 2 colleges. Now Killian is a psychopath in the true meaning of the word, and this book starts where he sexually assaults our heroine Glyndon. And then after that kind of becomes obsessed with her and won't leave her alone, and tries very much to get inside her, figure out why he's so fascinated by her, what makes her tick. And Glyndon is equally interested in him. She's horrified in a way. She doesn't want to be with him, but also she can't really stay away. He very much intrigues her. She's trying to figure him out as much as he's trying to figure her out. It's a very interesting relationship. I do thoroughly enjoy it. I've really liked Rina Kent's series so far, and some of the other books in this series, and Killian and Glyndon are definitely interesting characters for sure. So check your trigger warnings before you go into that one, but highly recommend. Then I went on to read Games with the Orc by Kathryn Moon. Again, this was for the Monster Mash readathon, and this was to tick off my Orc square. It's book 1 of the Monster Smash Agency, and we're following Sunny and Kalar. This one has got a kind of a very kind of sort of basic plot line, and it's essentially that Kalar is a sex worker. He's an orc, and he is there to deliver on any fantasy that a woman might have who wishes to hire him. Now Sunny has recently split up from a long-term boyfriend. She has got lots of ideas and kinks that she wants to try out, and her friend convinces her to go to the Monster Smash Agency and pay for an orc to spend the week with her, so that she can try out all different fantasies that she's got. So she gets paired up with Kalar, and they spend the week together. And so this book has got a lot of sexual content in it, with them trying out lots of different kinks that somebody wants to try, and then ultimately their relationship goes from there. I did enjoy this one. I didn't think it was anything special. I rated it 3 star, but again, if you want to know my in-depth thoughts on it, you can go back to the Monster Mash romance readathon to find out more. And then finally, the 4th book that I read for that readathon was Lifeblood by Amara Rae. That was book 1 in the Mortal Coven series, and that was specifically for me to tick off a witch square. So it was a paranormal romance between a witch and a wizard, Colette and Mackie. Again, I enjoyed reading this one. I didn't think it was anything exceptional. It is the first book that this author has written though, and I definitely think the series has got potential. There's 5 books out in the series so far, and I'll definitely be going on to read more in the series, but for now I thought it was a solid star, and I rated it 3 stars. And essentially with this one, Colette is part of a witches' coven that are hybrids basically. So normally in their society, witches can mate with humans, but they're not supposed to mate with other paranormal creatures. And if they do, it's sort of frowned upon, it's a little bit looked down upon, but it does make them more powerful. And so she's part of a coven of witches that are all hybrids. So they're very powerful and they look after an area. They've got their own territory, if you like, that they're trying to look after, and they've got wards up. And this book is about a group of wizards who are actually the enemies of the witches. So witches and wizards don't get on. The wizards hate the witches, and they in this book, Mackie is sent to kidnap Colette to try and get some secrets out of her so they can bring down the wards and invade the witches' territory. And kind of the story goes from there. Again, if you want to know my full thoughts on that one, a bit more about the story, then you can go and check out my Monster Mash readathon roundup. So that was all that I read for the Monster Mash readathon, and I went straight on then to read Illicit Monster by Maggie Cole. And this one was book 4 in the Mafia Wars Island series, and it's also the last one in the series that she's going to be writing. Now, I originally got this as an arc to read, but she actually released the book early, so it came out early October, and I was obviously in the middle of reading my monster stories. So although I had an arc copy, I ended up downloading it on Kindle Unlimited to read it before I put in my review. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that I absolutely loved Maggie Cole's Mafia Wars series, and then she did a spin-off for New York, and then more recently Ireland. Now, I haven't enjoyed the Ireland Mafia Wars series as much as I did the original. I enjoyed each of the books, but I had some of them were quite problematic, or some of the plot points didn't make sense to me. I didn't fall in love with the characters as much as I had in the original series, and so I was struggling a little bit more with the Ireland series. However, I do think the last book in the series is one of the better ones out of the series. I did enjoy it, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. As well as it being a mafia romance, obviously set in Ireland, this is also kind of a forced marriage, like age gap, enemies to lovers sort of storyline as well. And we're following Tynan and Maeve in this one. So Tynan is part of the O'Connor family, who we've come to know and love throughout all of the series. And Maeve is part of the O'Learys, who are kind of their rivals, their enemies in this particular series. But Tynan's had his eye on Maeve for a while, and luckily for Tynan, her dad is a gambler and is always gambling away his money, and therefore always needs to borrow more. Now, he's pretty much run out of credit with the O'Leary family, and so in desperation he turns to the O'Connors, turns to Tynan to borrow some more money. Now, when he's not able to pay Tynan back, Tynan goes to his house to try and get something from him. He sees the whole house is bare, pretty much everything that the family has ever owned has been sold. Maeve has desperately been trying to keep this family together, help out her dad, pay off his debts, but he just keeps getting them into more and more debt. In fact, when Maeve turns up and Tynan is there, her dad, in desperation, decides that he's going to sell Maeve to Tynan, and Tynan grabs the opportunity with both hands, and before her dad or Maeve can do anything about this or change their minds, he whisks her off to the chapel, and they get married that night. The thing is, her dad has already made the same deal with the O'Learys, and the O'Learys think that she belongs to them, and so what kind of ensues is the O'Learys coming after Maeve, coming after Tynan to get her what is essentially their property back. But she is much better under his care than she would be under the care of the O'Learys. Yeah, we're not going to want to see what happens when the O'Learys finally catch up with them. So I thought, like I say, I thought this was one of the better ones out of the series. I actually liked the story between Tynan and Maeve more than I did from the other books that I'd read. I thought it was a nice round out to the series, and while overall the series didn't hold up to the original, it was still a worthwhile read if you are interested in Irish Mafia, particularly Irish Mafia that's set in Ireland. So then after that, I went back to the Naga Bride series by Naomi Lucas. I thoroughly enjoyed Viper, and I thought, I just want some really fun, easy reads, and I'm going to go back to some monster books. So I picked up book 2 in the Naga Bride series, which is called King Cobra. Like I said, this is a monster romance. It's another Naga. It's a cross between sort of a Cobra and a human. The snake's name is Zaku and our human is Daisy. Now, Daisy is one of the humans that kind of was a part of the initial offering to the snake, shall we say, and she's not too happy. Now, she's been through a bit of a tough time because not only she's been trying to escape the snakes in the forest, she eventually gets captured by King Cobra and he thinks she belongs to him. But she is also trying to get back to base camp because she thinks that she needs to alert the other humans that are waiting in a kind of mothership out in space to what's going on down on Earth, and she thinks absolutely they're going to stop what's going on because it's not right that, you know, the male humans are giving the female humans away to these snakes. So she absolutely takes her opportunity to escape, try to get back to camp, try and raise the alarm. And what she discovers is that the mothership already knows there is no escape for her, and so she tries to make a bit of a run for it. Takes one of their transporter ships, tries to fly out of the camp to you know, trying to get herself to safety, and she's shot down from the sky. And her plane then, well, her transporter kind of crash lands in the forest. Where she is then very severely injured. Now, King Cobra is beside himself with worry, and he searches the forest till he finds this crashed ship. He rescues her, takes her back to his lair, and he happens to live in a very technically advanced sort of building that we think back from when humans used to live there used to obviously belong to somebody quite wealthy. It's a very, very strategic sort of building on the side of a mountain, really lots of nice windows, but also he's got loads and loads of robots that live in this house that repair things, look after things, and he has got a lot of technology inside this property. One of which is a sort of a medipod that he can put Daisy in, and the medipod then goes about its business repairing Daisy. Now, she is, like I say, she's very badly injured. She's got a lot of burns from this crash, and she's lost quite a bit of her hair, and so it is some time before Daisy kind of fully recovers. So what I liked about this one as well is that there's a lot of care taken in here, with King Cobra really looking after Daisy and taking care of her. And so yeah, so I absolutely loved it, really enjoyed it, and we see more of the other humans as well. Then after that I went straight on to Blue Coral, which was book 3 in the Naga Bride series, also by Naomi Lucas, another monster romance, sort of sci-fi, and this one had sort of survival elements beyond what we've already experienced kind of in the jungle and everything with the other characters. Also rated this one 4 stars, and we're following Shelby and Vegan in this one. Now, Vegan is a blue coral snake. He's not done himself any favours in the previous book, because he did, in fact, kind of go into kind of a bit of a sort of a bloodlust, like a bit of a rut, because of all these human women being about, and he did try and take Daisy from Zaku. So Zaku is not too happy with Vegan at all, but really Vegan has always had his eye on Shelby, and Shelby's a human that has managed to stay behind in the camp because she managed to convince the powers that be that she was pregnant and therefore couldn't be turned over to the snakes. And Shelby is also got special eyes. Shelby is sort of like the archaeologist. She's one of the leaders of this team that have gone down to try and find this hidden technology on the planet, and she has got these special eyes that are like robotic eyes that kind of record things, they analyze things, they remember, they record everything that she's seen, and to get these eyes she's actually traded out her uterus, so she cannot have children. But Vegan doesn't care about that. He just wants Shelby for himself, and he's been laying in wait, hoping that he is going to get a glimpse of her, that he's going to be able to get in and kidnap her from the camp and make her his. But Shelby is getting very close to finding this technology. She thinks there's something in the ground. In fact, she kind of she uncovers this sort of like underground laboratory. It's on multiple levels beneath, you know, beneath the surface, and one day when she's almost like broken through, she falls into this hole. There's a bit of an explosion and Vagan is there to go into the hole after her to try and rescue her. Also in the hole with her though is Shelby's sort of long-term boyfriend, and so then it becomes very much a standoff between him and Vagan and who's going to get superiority. Of course, Vagan and Shelby end up being mates, so Shelby is very much drawn to Vagan. But what is interesting here is that we start to uncover a little bit more about what happened to make the humans have to leave the planet in the first place. They were definitely doing some experiments with hybrids trying to inject humans with snake and reptilian DNA. And so we start to learn a bit more about where the Nagas actually came from, who's responsible for being on the planet, why did the humans have to go in the first place. So we start to uncover now more of what's actually going on, and who knows what, and you know what the future of this planet might be. So a really another great installment in the series. I'm absolutely loving it and definitely going to be going on to book 4 very soon. But I did have a little bit of a break from the snakes, and the next one that I finished, and this is the one that was kind of is a pre-arc, not quite a beta read, not quite an arc read, is The Nephilim's Finesse by Eliza Hampstead. And this is book 3 in the War of the Nephilim series that she's been writing. Now, Eliza Hampstead is a relatively new author. This is only the 3rd book that she is going to be bringing out. It doesn't come out till the middle of November. And I have been lucky enough to be on her sort of a beta reading team for the last 2 books. So I beta read this one in the month of September. Obviously gave Eliza some feedback, she made some changes, but I also then offered to read the updated version after she'd made changes following all the beta reviews, and do some proofreading for her as well. So I got the manuscript back, did some proofreading, made some more comments, sent that back to her before it went to her official editor, like the professional editor. So I got this opportunity, this experience to actually go through and proofread a book as well, which I thoroughly enjoyed. So that did actually take me a long time. I really took my time with it. I was probably reading the book over a 2-week period, but did finally finish it and send it back to her in October. So I wanted to mention it again here. So I won't go into it in too much detail because I did talk about it in September. It's actually going to be released in November, so I'll probably talk about it a bit more after the release date. But in this one we're following Victoria and Raph. Raph is a Nephilim, so he's half angel, half human, and he is the leader of the Nephilim in sort of London. And Victoria is a very old vampire. She's kind of Raph's enemy, and at the end of the 2nd book, Raph actually captures her after a battle, and she is now his captive, where they're trying to get information out of her about the other vampires on kind of what they're up to and what their plans are. And of course in this captive situation, Raph and Victoria get much closer together. And overall I've been really enjoying the series. I really like the world that Eliza has built. She's got a lot, you know, she's still a new author, so she's definitely still developing her writing skills. But each book I've read from her so far is getting better and better, and so I'm really looking forward to see what else she can deliver, produce, write for us, create for us in the future. After that I went on to read Silent Lies by Neva Altaj, and this is book 8 of the Imperfectly Imperfect series, and this is a mafia romance. So this time we're following the head of the Serbian mafia, Drago, and he is married by arrangement to Sienna, who is part of the Cosa Nostra mafia. She's one of the Cosa Nostra mafia princesses. Now both characters have got quite sad backstories. Drago, when he was growing up in Serbia, his parents were part of the mafia, and one day his house was bombed. His parents didn't survive, and he attempted to rescue his 2 sisters. He had twin sisters who were younger than him. He attempted to rescue them from the house. He managed to save one but not the other. So he's basically brought up his one of his sisters, and since then they've moved to America, and he's established himself as the head of the Serbian mafia. Sienna, on the other hand, is a Cosa Nostra princess. She's also a twin, and her twin sister was a heroine from a previous book who was actually sort of kidnapped, sold into sex slavery, eventually rescued, and is now married to a Russian mafia hero from a previous book. And in addition to this, Sienna's parents also died when she was young. They were part of the mafia, they worked in a casino, and they were shot during an altercation in the casino. So Sienna harbours a lot of guilt. She believes that very much that she's responsible for her parents' death, and that she's also responsible for what happened to her sister. She kind of hides it by a very, very vibrant exterior. So she always shows, no matter what she's feeling inside, she always portrays that she's happy, she's the life and soul, and she kind of portrays this persona through her clothing, which is very brightly coloured, lots of glitter, lots of sparkle, lots of bows, and so other people look at her and think she's wearing the most ridiculous outfit they've ever seen. But this is one of the things that Drager absolutely loves about her. It's very endearing to him, and he thinks she is just a shining light and a beacon in his life, and just loves everything about her and what she wears. And like I say, they are arranged in marriage because Sienna has also got a very good talent for languages, and the head of the Cosa Nostra asks her to marry Drago with the intention of spying on him, learning Serbian language, and then spying on him and reporting back. Of course, this doesn't last too long. Drago pretty much from the beginning realises that that's what she's been sent to do, and Sienna is very, very reluctant to share anything back about Drago, because obviously the more time they spend together, the more they actually like each other. And there's some super cute things in here. Absolutely loved it. Some great things that Drago does for Sienna, and the epilogue is absolutely fantastic as well. Absolutely left me smiling. And although I rated this one 4 stars on Goodreads, for me it was a 4.5, absolutely, and probably one of my favourites from the series so far. So then I went on from that fantastic mafia book to a fantastic sports romance, which I rated 5 stars, and this is The Right Move by Liz Tomforde. It's book 2 in the Windy City series. It's a sports romance. I'm sure you've heard of it, and I'm sure you've heard of the male hero in this story, Ryan Shea, who is a very famous basketball player in this series. I don't know quite how to approach this, because this book has had a lot of hype all year long. I finally, and I was putting off the series because it's so long. The books are like 500 pages each, and that really does put me off. And I'd read Mile High the month before, and I really enjoyed that, and I thought, right, I'm going to give The Right Move a go and not be put off by the length of the book. But I was determined. I mean, everyone talks about Ryan Shea and how amazing Ryan Shea is, and he's everyone's new book boyfriend, and I was determined. I mean, I was like, how good can Ryan Shea be? I mean, he's got to be pretty good, right, to have all of these people swooning all over him. And I was just like, is he going to be any good? I mean, I don't think he's going to win me over. I'm not going to be impressed by Ryan whatsoever. But let me tell you, he is absolutely amazing. He's everything that everyone says he is. He did absolutely win me over, and by the end of the book, I was as in love with Ryan Shea as Rio is. And as I said in sort of my review, if you've read my review on Goodreads, if Ryan Shea came to my house and knocked on the door, I would not turn him away, even if my best friend asked him to. And I absolutely love this book because not only were the characters amazing, the storyline was fantastic, the romance between them was so good. The side characters also make it, you know, like we get to see more of Xander's. We get to see more of Ryan Shea's sister, the heroine book from book 1. We get to see more of characters like Rio, who is in the ice hockey team but is absolutely besotted with Ryan Shea himself. He's a massive fan of him. And so I just thought the whole thing was so good. I was smiling throughout, really, really enjoyed the whole story, the whole book. And even though it was, like I say, nearly 500 pages, it didn't feel that long at all. And yeah, absolutely loved it. Would highly recommend. So if you don't know, this one is basically Ryan Shea is a basketball player. He is super, super famous. And as a result, he hardly ever goes out. He keeps him very much himself to himself. He's got a squeaky clean reputation, so he never wants to be seen out, you know, like drinking or going out with girls or anything like that. He very much is focused on his basketball. And the heroine in this one is Aidee. She is Ryan Shea's sister's best friend. She was one of the flight attendants from book 1. And she recently split up with her boyfriend. She's got nowhere to live, and so she ends up being going to stay with Ryan as his sort of roommate. But very quickly, it's not long after she's moved in that they kind of come to a mutual agreement to fake date, because Ryan is trying to win over sort of the GM of the basketball team, who very much wants him to be more social, more outgoing, and so he thinks he's going to win him over a little bit more if he has a girlfriend. And Aidee also needs a boyfriend to go with her to her friend's wedding, so that when she meets her ex, she's got someone with her. And so who better than a world famous basketball player to go with her to her friend's wedding. So they enter into this sort of fake dating relationship. Of course, it doesn't stay fake for very long, and like I say, I just love the way these characters are developed, how we learn more about them, how they are with each other, how they interact with each other, and how their romance develops, and just an absolutely fun and fantastic time. I loved every second of that book. So I had every intention of going on to Caught Up by Liz Tomforde, just sort of riding high on the waves of Ryan Shea and wanting to go on to Caught Up. But I wanted a bit of a palette cleanser between those two books, and I had an arc waiting for me called Sharing Their Prize by Poppy Aster. This is a very short story, it's just 70 pages. And the book came out on the 31st of October, so a few days before it was due to come out, I picked it up and read it, and like I said, it was very much a palette cleanser between The Right Move and Caught Up. Now this is book 4 in the Monster Gentlemen's Club series, and the premise of this club is very much that there are monsters in the world, but they're hiding their identity from humans, but obviously they have sexual needs, and they have this auction where humans can go to be put up for auction to sell their bodies for a night to be with a monster. Now, to protect the identity of the monsters, the humans will get paid for this service, but they will then have their memories erased at the end of the night, so that when they go back to their sort of their normal life, if you like, they don't remember anything about what happened, but they go away a lot richer. In books 1, 2 and 3, which is basically 3 parts of the same story, we're following the same couple, we learn much more about the world and the monsters and the auction and all of that sort of stuff. And book 4 is a separate romance, so it's not following the original couple. And this is an MFM relationship between Ivy, Jacob and Kesrith. Now, essentially, Ivy needs money to pay for her education, and she signs up to go into the auction. There's a bidding war between Jacob and Kesrith, and basically the auctioneer says, we can't go any higher with the bids, how about you share her for the evening? So you both pay the money that you've bid, but you get to share her for the evening. So that's what they do, and when they start to start their evening together, Jacob and Kesrith realise that not only is Ivy their fated mate, but they are also each other's mate as well. And so this is very much a polyamorous relationship between these 3 individuals, and it's about, you know, what they're going to do at the end of the night. Are they going to honour the bargain that they're going to erase her memory and send her home, or is something else going to happen? Now, it is only 70 pages, it is a short story, so this is the one that, if I'm being 100% honest, I would personally rate it 2 stars. Now, 2 stars in my world means it's okay. It's okay, you got what, you know, the book delivered what it said on the tin. It was a monster romance, it was an auction, it was one night of passion between the 3 characters. So it was essentially an erotic romance. So nothing to write home about, nothing special, but it doesn't obviously deserve a 2-star in the normal world. Like, I wouldn't rate this book 2-star, that would absolutely make other people think that I didn't enjoy this book, didn't like it. But for me, it was just 70 pages of a bit of fun, like I say, a really good palette cleanser. So what I actually did, and because it was an ARC, and because I'm part of Poppy Aster's ARC team, and I've really enjoyed her other books as well, I actually rated this 3.5 stars on Goodreads and rounded it up to a 4, and I've kind of put my review on there as well. So take that as you will, but like I say, if you're just in the market for a very short story, something that's only going to take you 45 minutes to an hour to read, and you just want a bit of fun, a bit of erotica, then go for it. So then I will jump straight into Caught Up by Liz Tomforde. That's book 3 in the Windy City series, another sports romance, but this time our hero, who's Kai, is a baseball player, and he's a single dad, and he is looking for a nanny to look after his 15-month-old son while he is, you know, playing the baseball season. And so this is where we meet Miller. She is our heroine of the story, but she's also Kai's coach's daughter. She is a famous sort of pastry chef, a dessert chef, but she's taken a break for the summer, and so her dad says, hey, why don't you come travel with me with the baseball team and be Kai's nanny to his son? And kind of that's what happens, and the relationship goes from there. Now, I have to say with this one, I rated this one 5 stars, but I didn't enjoy it as much as The Right Move. I didn't think Kai was as good a hero as Ryan Shea, and I struggled with this book for maybe the first 60%. It was fine, I was enjoying it, I like Liz Tomforde's writing style. I just didn't 100% connect with the characters. It felt like a long book, if you know what I mean. So it really sort of felt kind of long. It was sort of felt like it was dragging quite a lot, and I just kind of wanted to get to the good bit, if you like. Don't get me wrong, it was still good, but I just felt the length of the book. With The Right Move, I just gobbled it up, loved every single page, really enjoyed it. It didn't feel like a long book. I felt Caught Up did feel like a long book. However, once I got to the 70% mark, I did not stop crying. I had tears in my eyes for pretty much the last 30% of this book, which is a long time, and I absolutely loved how this concluded, how the characters developed, how it all ended, and so I had to give it 5 stars. But if I was being totally objective, took a step back, the first 60% was tough going for me personally, but the last 30% of this book more than made up for it, and like I say, I ended up very much needing quite a few tissues to get through the last few chapters, and ended up rating it 5 stars, so would highly recommend. Then I finally finished Madam by Sarah Cate. Now Madam is book 6 in the Salacious Players Club, and is one of her new releases. It's been highly anticipated. We've been waiting for this book for a while, and I did download it and start to read it on the day that it came out, which was earlier in October. However, I got about 20-30% into the book and I lost a bit of interest. I wasn't 100% enjoying it, and I decided that I was going to pause and carry on with some other reading until I felt the mood to pick it back up again, because I didn't want to force myself to finish the book and then do it a disservice when it came to my review. So in this one we are following Eden. Now Eden has been Madam Kink, and we've seen her in all of the other books in the Salacious Players Club, and we have definitely been waiting for her story. Now I hadn't read too much about what this book was about, and I did not expect it to end up being a polyamorous relationship, and it ended up being a FFM relationship between Eden, Jade and Clay. And I think this is where I kind of had a bit of trouble with it, because I wasn't expecting that. I don't know what I was expecting. Like I said, I hadn't really read ahead. I didn't know kind of like, you know, what to expect or who the couple was really going to be, but I didn't expect it to be an FFM relationship, and I had a bit of a problem with how this played out. So overall I still rated it 4 stars. I love the Salacious Players Club. I love Sarah Cate's writing. This one is like a BDSM dom sub relationship. So like I say, Eden is Madam Kink. She is very much a dominant, and we've seen her being a dom in all of the other books. So we'd seen Clay in book 5 already, and Eden kind of starts this relationship with Clay where he discovers he has very submissive tendencies, and he goes to Madam Kink in a professional capacity to learn more about his submissive nature. Now they end up starting a relationship together and it becoming a bit more, and so they kind of have this relationship where they're kind of together for about 8 months. Still, Eden is very much hiding a secret that she's got a son and he's just 7 or 8 years old, and she very much keeps him away from this kind of professional kind of BDSM lifestyle that she's got going on. So she never told Clay about her son. When it gets a bit too serious, Eden panics and breaks up with Clay, and they kind of go their separate ways, and Clay is heartbroken by what's happened, but eventually he moves on and gets himself a new girlfriend called Jade. Now, and this is where the book kind of starts, because we see Clay with Jade, and how Jade is set up. She's much younger. She feels quite young on the page, and Jade is the one that ends up kind of forcing a relationship with Jade, Clay and Eden. And it wasn't kind of what I expected, because when we first meet Jade, she is kind of set up to be so she's Clay's boss's daughter. She's basically helping out around the office, and she kind of starts this office romance with Clay that they're very much trying to keep a secret from her dad, and it came across to me that it was Jade that was driving the agenda of keeping their relationship secret, because she thought it was more exciting if it was kind of, you know, like if it was a bit more clandestine, and Clay very much wanted to kind of admit it to the, you know, to his boss and sort of say that he was seeing his daughter. And so they've kind of got this secret relationship going on, but it's a very sexual relationship. They are very experimental, and Jade very quickly finds out that Clay has got some submissive tendencies, and he used to see Eden at the club. So she's quite intrigued. She goes to meet Eden. She wants to have some lessons from her to figure out how to be a dominant herself. And meanwhile, Clay bumps into Eden when she's with her son, and he forms this relationship with her son, and they're all kind of having relationships with each other, and at first they kind of don't know it, and then eventually they decide to bring their relationships together and become like this sort of threesome. And that part of it doesn't actually bother me, but I think it was just the way that they kind of got to this stage in their relationship. Like I said, I wasn't expecting it. I very much thought from the first couple of chapters that Jade would kind of like fizzle away and it'd become more about Eden and Clay, and then figuring out how they were going to go back to being with each other and sort of rekindling their relationship. And it didn't kind of go that way. And like I say, I didn't 100% warm to Jade at all. I didn't feel like she was necessary as part of the overall relationship. Yet she seemed very much to be the driving force between trying to get everyone together and being together. So it was a bit of a strange one. Strange to know how to rate. Overall, looking back, I did enjoy it, but like I say, I had to put that pause on it. I wasn't really 100% feeling it, and so I struggled more to finish it off than I have done before with previous books in the series. But overall, the series has been fantastic. Would highly recommend. Books 2 and 3 in particular are my favourites. So yeah, if you are interested and you've not picked them up yet, I definitely recommend reading them. So then the last 3 books that I read during the month of October were sort of cartel mafia romances. I really wanted to read some more cartel mafia romances that I could recommend to you guys. And so I did a bit of research to have a look to see what took my fancy, and I ended up picking up Vicious Heir by Bella Ash, which is book 1 in the Castillo Cartel series. Like I say, it's a cartel romance. This one is a sort of a forced marriage, and it's between Angel and Emma. And although it's cartel, this one was set in Florida. Now, the concept of this one is Angel is the heir to the head of, to the Castillo cartel. His dad is still very much alive, but he's in the late stages of cancer and he's only got a few more months left to live. So Angel is going to be in charge of this cartel in the next couple of months. Still, his dad is still very much in charge, and he's also not a nice man, to the point where he doesn't treat his sons very well, and there are several occasions where he beats Angel because he has disrespected him in front of his men. Now, one day, Angel is in his club doing cartel business, and Emma comes into the club. Emma is a courier. She's been asked to take a parcel to Angel, and when she drops off the parcel, Angel is distracted taking this parcel, and it gives some rival gang members an opportunity to attempt to assassinate him and shoot him. Emma sees what's going on and manages to save him, and as a result, Angel owes Emma a life debt. Now, because she has sort of got herself into the crosshairs of this cartel, her life is now in danger too, and Angel basically says the only way that he can repay this debt is by marrying her to make sure that she is 100% protected. And their relationship goes from there. Now, overall I gave this one 3 stars. I did enjoy it. I thought it was interesting. It was nice and refreshing to read a cartel romance. There was just some things for me that didn't kind of make it a 4-star or any higher. I just thought the relationship was a bit too easy. Emma didn't really struggle against it. I mean, if you're a courier and you get in a bit of a crosshairs of the cartel and then told you've got to marry someone, I think you'd kick up a bit more of a fuss than she did. And it wasn't because she was afraid of him. She just kind of like went along with it and was like, okay, yeah. And then on their wedding night, they have sex together. Okay, yeah. There didn't seem any struggle in their relationship at all. The only issue was that Emma wanted more from Angel than he was prepared to give. Obviously, he's a big, bad cartel mafia heir, and he can't show any weakness, and he won't even show any weakness with her. So Emma feels like she's getting a lot from him, like physically, so when they're together sexually, she's getting a lot from him, but after that he turns cold, and there's no kind of warmth that she gets from him, and this is the biggest struggle really with that. And she just is trying really hard to fit into his family, and trying to get him to love her. And so you know, that is kind of the biggest struggle really with their relationship. I liked the setup and the premise of this one. I probably will go on to read book 2. I have been interested in what's going on, but it didn't blow me away. It wasn't anything revolutionary, and like I say, I ended up giving that one 3 stars. So then I went on to read a duet. The first book is Devil's Vow, and the second book is Devil's Own by Aidee, Jaimes. And I'm going to talk about them as one book because although it was a duet, it was about the same couple. The first book was only 160 pages and the second one was only 130 pages. So together, there was still less than the 300 pages between them. And so really for me, although it was split out so that the first part could have a bit of a cliffhanger before we go into part 2, it's very much one book, and I would recommend reading them together. So these were by an author called Aidee, Jaimes. I've never read anything from her before, and this was another cartel mafia romance. This one was part set in Mexico and part set in Florida, so I thought it was an interesting mix. And this one's also an amnesia romance, captor captive sort of situation. And our hero in this one is called Santos, and the heroine was Sonia. Now, I absolutely love this one, rated both parts 4 stars. I was captivated and hooked from the first page. It starts off where Sonia is running through a cornfield, escaping unknown bad men through the cornfield, and someone is shooting at her. She's desperately trying to get away. She ends up falling into a river. A man falls into the river with her, captures her. She recognises him as Santos, and as she turns to say his name, she hits her head on a rock and she passes out. And then when she wakes up from this experience, she wakes up 5 years later. She's in bed with Santos. She's married to Santos when she's been married to him for 5 years, but she has absolutely no memory of what happened. So it's very, very intriguing. Right from the first one, we're straight into a chase across a field where her life is in danger. And then the very next chapter, we wake up 5 years later and she seems to be married to Santos. Now, how did she get here? What's been going on in the previous 5 years? You know, there's quite a lot of intrigue and mystery here. Now, all the clues are laid out, so it's not hard to figure out what's happening, who's doing what's going on with the backstory. But the way the author tells this story is through flashbacks. So Santos and Sonia knew each other 10 years prior. So you go back all the way to 10 years to see what happened to them, how they first met, why they split up in the first place. Then we have a time jump of 5 years to get to the point where she's running through the cornfield. We figure out what's going on there, and then obviously we work out what's happened 5 years after that. So I really loved the way this one played out and how this one all worked. Yeah, so I absolutely love this one. I love both characters. I really wanted them to be together. I really liked the use of the flashbacks. Sometimes I don't like flashbacks in stories, but they were really, really well done, and introduced at exactly the right time. We saw the right flashback at the right time. Like I say, all the clues were laid out, so we could figure it out. It wasn't so confusing or so, like, you know, there wasn't this massive like reveal, like, oh my god, a big shock or anything. You could figure it out, but it was done in such a way that it did keep you guessing. You did want to know what was going on, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it, and will definitely be reading more of this author's work for sure, and would recommend. So there we have it. That's all of the books that I read in the month of October. I really hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content from me. And if you want to recommend any books to me, I've got a book recommendation form down below. You can also put your recommendations in the comments box. And if we've got any books in common that we've both read this month, or anything that I've talked about that you kind of want to give me your thoughts on as well, please don't hesitate to put those in the comments box. I would love to hear from you. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. She gets there, and there is a bit of a bidding war between Jacob and Zekra. I mean, I don't really know what to say about this book, because it's had a lot of hype, it's had a lot... It's the O'Connors and the O'Learys, that's it. So I don't know if I said that or not. So at the start, so the next book I read was Getting On With Gargoyles. Oh, I didn't even write down who we're following. So then the next book I read was Getting On With Gargoyles by Hazel. Not supposed to be exactly like that series, and they are different, and so no one cares, no one cares. Right, so should we just start again? So October was a great... So October...